One of the things that jury service does is it helps the democracy in a number of different ways that individually may not mean as much, but combined are actually really important. Certainly one of the ones and sort of the classic justifications for having trial by jury is to be a check on the judiciary. In colonial times and throughout the Revolutionary War, as you know, the judges would actually ride circuit, and they weren't part of the community per se, or necessarily part of the community. And they were quite often appointed by the royal governor. And so the colonists were very, very insistent that we had to have a jury trial, precisely because we don't trust these royally appointed judges to make decisions that are actually in our interest for our communities. So that's a big piece of it. Another part, again historically, and Alexis de Tocqueville talked about this in his Democracy in America book, is the idea that participation in jury service is really about education in self-government. How do people learn about what it means to participate in a democracy? And this is one of the most effective teaching environments, is to actually live it and do it. Obviously the other one, just resolving cases. Some cases are just very difficult. They're pitting different views of the world and different values against one another, and so it's terribly important to be able to for the justice system to be able to have some sort of public legitimacy about the outcome, of having peers in the community say, this is the way that we think this should come out, this is what fairness is. So you've got all of those things working together. When you do sort of public opinion surveys of what which would you trust more, a judge or a jury? Or if you had a serious case, you were arrested for a crime, would you prefer to go before a judge or a jury? Most people say before a jury because they think it's fairer. And so the fact that we have this as an important component of our justice system is, I think, a very big piece of why the public actually trusts our courts to do what they do, because they know that this sort of backdrop is there that is protecting their rights and protecting their values. It's a check on the prosecutors to protect against overcharging. So, I know it'll be a surprise to you, but some prosecutors sometimes do that. It's a check on the legislature from overreaching in terms of the type of laws, what actually becomes criminal, so allowing that, as well as the check on the judge, that sort of elitist, highly educated, higher economic strata, so that it's actually representing, what are the real community mores. And so I think all of those pieces together infuse what we idea in terms of that check, and again, that backstop. Not necessary in 100% of the cases, but for those cases that do end up going there, that's the one that's sort of our confidence builder that the system really works. There's a lot of reasons that have at least been speculated about of what's contributing to the decline in jury trials. In federal courts, we're seeing a decline of probably maybe about tenfold. It used to be about a third of criminal trials in federal court went to trial, and now it's down about 3%. State courts, it hasn't been quite that dramatic, but it's still pretty precipitous. Some of them relate to simply the expense. It's very expensive to bring a case to trial, so typically you're only talking about very significant controversies, and civil, high-value cases are the only ones that can really afford to go anymore, or very, very serious criminal matters. Other than that, you don't see that many cases being out. On the criminal side, we've seen an increase in plea bargaining. That was certainly not historically part of how you resolve the justice system. On the civil case, the same type of thing with settlement negotiations, especially with the introduction of mediation and arbitration and alternative forms of adjudication. What does that mean in terms of the citizenship piece? And I think this is probably more important for the self-education piece, is that it deprives people of the opportunity to really experience the benefit of being a juror and participating in our government in that very unique and very profound way. And it's not only just sort of learning about the justice system and the court system and how that operates, but there's some very interesting research that's being done right now by a trio of researchers working with the National Science Foundation grant that they call the Jury and Democracy Project. And they set out to test de Tocqueville's hypothesis and did a series of studies looking at the impact of jury service on people's social and political engagement. And they found that people who, once they had served on jury service and had a positive experience, tended to vote more often, were more engaged in community activities, were involved in political activities and social activities, and sort of like this. And so you think about sort of that juxtaposition. We've got fewer jury trials, fewer opportunities, and what that means for the civic engagement in our communities.